You're good to go.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome here. Thank you for joining us today. It's right just past 5 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Ben Anderson. I am a special projects planner with the Seneca Nation Department of Transportation. Let my team here introduce themselves as well.
I'm Sharon Ray, the acting director for the Seneca Nation.
Hi, I'm Jerry Jimerson. I'm the GIS manager / deputy director of planning. Happy to be here, everybody.
And again, thank you for joining us here today. Topic of discussion is our long-range transportation plan. So the transportation plan will be covering really everything to do with our transportation network, roads, bridges, and all that. We have brought on QK4 from Louisville, Kentucky, who are our partners in this and our consultants with us. We've been really happy with the work that they've provided. So like I said, 5 o'clock, here's our first meeting. We are going to have another meeting at 6 o'clock where we'll be reviewing the Iroquois broad roundabout in Seneca on the Allegheny territory. So if you're available then, we hope that you'll join us. But for now, I'm going to hand it off to our QK4 partners here. Let them take the wheel.
All right, thanks so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Rebecca Thompson, and as Ben mentioned, I'm with QK4, the consultant who's helping out with the long-range transportation plan. Just a couple quick housekeeping notes. We are recording, so just be aware of that. And if you have comments or questions or anything as we're working through this, you're welcome to use the little raise your hand feature to say something out loud, or there's a chat panel if you can find the little speech bubble down in the toolbar. We want to keep it pretty informal. I've got a couple of slides we're going to talk through to kind of give you the gist of what the long-range transportation plan has to say and is all about, and then leave plenty of time for comments and questions as we're working through it. So with that, I'm going to jump into the slides. The long-range transportation plan defines a multimodal transportation vision for like a 20-year or more planning horizon. The intent is really to kind of help the Department of Transportation make informed decisions about how to best invest their funding to meet the top community needs. And as you can see on the screen here, this kind of lays out the outline of the report, which is available online through the DOT website. We've got a PDF up there as well as some paper copies, I understand, scattered about. So we definitely encourage everybody to log in and check it out. And then we'll have a survey coming up, well, on this very next slide. Check out the plan. And then we've got a survey to try and collect some community data, looking at different modal needs and different priorities and where those key investments are. There's a survey monkey link up at the top of the page, which I will copy into our chat panel as well, so you don't have to type out all that fun stuff. There's also, once you finish the survey, there's a link that'll automatically route you over to a GIS app online that lets you drop pins to say, man, there's a really bad pothole here, or I feel like there should be an extra transit stop. All those kind of community need elements that are more location specific, you can see down in that lower right-hand graphic. It's just another way to try and assess the data and understand kind of what's going on and how we can best serve the community over the next 20 years. So jumping into the plan itself, the overarching vision, kind of the overarching theme for the plan is to try and balance the rich culture and heritage of the nation with modern high quality features. We want to support a system that is safe, sustainable, and accessible for everyone who lives, works, plays, and travels through the nation. Jumping through the plan, Chapter 3 examines the regional context to understand the past, present, and future conditions. We really want to reflect on the history, geography, and future direction to understand how it's going to influence the demands that we'll be placing on the transportation network. Beyond the number crunching, this also involves reviewing some other regional planning efforts from the 2019 safety plan that you all worked through just a couple of years ago, through the comprehensive economic development strategy that kind of outlines that forward-looking next steps and goals. And then some of the larger regional plans, including some stuff with the Buffalo MPO, kind of Go Bike, and some of those regional connections, just to understand what's going on, not just within the borders, but adjacent as well. So Chapter 4 of the plan starts to look at existing assets, both on and off nation lands. It includes an inventory by mode, followed by an in-depth look at all the key metrics that are tracked for the National Tribal Transportation Facility Inventory. As of July 2020, the nation lists over 230 miles of highway in their inventory database. We also touch on regional hubs that serve longer trips, whether it's airports, freight coming in, transit links, greenways, just that whole encompassing system to understand where we're going, how we're getting there, and how can we be doing it better. So Chapter 5 really builds on all these interim steps to jump into the meat of the needs analysis. We ended up including projects from the 2019 Transportation Improvement Program, which is kind of the outline of short-term funding investments over the next couple of years. We included projects from the 2019 Safety Plan that we're going to look at here in the next coming slide, some of which are already moving forward into design. We looked at inventory data to understand what the existing needs are, whether there's lanes that are too narrow to comfortably pass, or if there's a bridge condition that's limiting to traffic or the load rating that can be using that facility. We talked to different department heads to understand how their 20-year plans are going to influence transportation patterns and flows. Like if there's a new housing development going in, like the one proposed off of Woodchuck Road, that's really going to require better access, better conditioned roads to serve those future traffic flows. We'll step through those in the next slides and a few more details, but if you have questions or comments, jump in, because otherwise I'm just going to keep rolling along. So this slide is just a big picture highlight that breaks down those needs we've identified that are discussed in the plan, just line after line. And you can see we've got them broken down by highway, bridges, transit, pedestrian trail, and then a quick blip about rail at the very end. So jumping into just a couple of those, the highway safety initiatives that were outlined in that 2019 plan, I'm going to call it a couple of them. First of all, Route 438 through Cattaraugus covers just under 2 miles between Versailles Plank Road and Brant Reservation Road. The earlier study looked at adding a center turn lane with wider shoulders and lanes, better clear zones, improved lighting, transit stops, traffic calming measures, and a signal there at the fire station to get them preemptive movement so they can get out in emergency situations, all intended to reduce crashes. It also looked at improving the intersection with Versailles Plank Road as a related project, looking at possibly a mini roundabout or a four-way stop control intersection with turn lanes, improved striping, signing, and lighting. Again, really focusing on what the crashes are doing at that location and what countermeasures would be effective to try and improve safety there. The 417 Broad Street corridor in the Allegheny Territory covers about 1 3/4 miles between Main Street over to RC Hug Drive. Poor pavement condition, striping, and numerous driveways are concerns, and there were 89 crashes reported along that stretch in 5 years. There's also 2 possible roundabout locations within that length that we'll look at here in a slide or two. One at Tim Hortons in the school, and another that we're going to actually be talking about at the 6 o'clock meeting. And I will post a link to that once we get a little bit further through on the public side of this presentation. The 2019 study also looked at putting in a 2-way left turn lane along 219 there through Kilbuck, and then it's some overarching improved lighting recommendations territory-wide. So this slide just zooms in there on the 438 corridor to highlight those limits, calling out a couple of photos for the key issues there with the bridge and kind of a relatively high number of driveways for this rural stretch, and then some of the deteriorating pavement conditions, as well as that intersection with Versailles Plank that's identified as a special high crash location. And then jumping over to 417 or Broad Street, this is the limits that were corresponding to that one. It's 1.7 miles. It's got the pictures of some of those hot spots again. This project is moving forward faster than the other one because the state DOT has a repaving project scheduled for later this year. The safety plan for this corridor recommended a 3-lane section with bike lanes, curb and gutter, lighting, and signal improvements, all coming to just about $12.5 million based on that planning level analysis. Everybody with me so far? Okay.
We're good.
All right. Cranking along then. You guys are gonna make this one easy. Here, this is a quick table to call out those other highway needs that we've noted to date. Moving left to right, it's the Allegheny Community Center parking lot, plus a couple of intersections there, particularly in Salamanca, that are busy or confusing, and then a new connection to State Park Avenue over in front of the casino there. And then Route 219, you see at the bottom of the first column is a long range DOT goal, state DOT goal, excuse me, potentially improving the connection between Springville and Salamanca. So we should acknowledge that that's a regional trend, even if it's beyond our 20-year planning horizon here. Jump into the center column in Cattaraugus. We've got the Lucky Lane intersection there by the Irving Bingo Hall, as well as a couple poor condition links, and then some potential increased traffic demands on Buffalo Road as that area continues to develop. And then the third column is more programmatic things, not location specific, but nationwide initiatives, whether it's dual language signs or trying to improve clear zones to improve drainage, all that kind of considerations to be folded alongside other projects, more so than just standalone elements. And I believe that wraps up our list of highway needs that we were presenting in the plan. Maybe. Here we go. Okay. This slide highlights a handful of the bridge needs between the two territories, from Clear Creek and Bucktown down to Vandalia. The state DOT has a couple projects underdeveloped currently, particularly for the Red House and Vandalia bridges, which are B and F on the maps that you can see on the screen there, with plans to reconstruct those two during 2022 and 2023. I'll pause for a second so you can check them out and get oriented. Again, all this is presented in more detail to scroll through at your own pace in the draft plan that's on the DOT's website. So on the transit side of things, in 2020, the nation got a federal grant to implement a series of transit improvements, including about 8 bus shelters through the two territories, investigating a series of some more expanded circulator routes, and then deploying ITS technology to do real-time location tracking with GPS on the new Seneca transit vehicles. We also just got some new funding that came online for a DOT facility with some office space and a bus storage garage there in Seneca. And I believe a transit hub is in discussion as well. So those are kind of the highlights on the transit side. In terms of bikes and pedestrians and sidewalks and all that good non-motorized transportation, particularly for the Allegheny network, there's this huge network of regional trail connections surrounding, and an ongoing effort to create a nationwide trails master plan to kind of look at what the standards should be on territory, how we want to connect those modes and interact with those regional connections and users. A handful of those possible connections are highlighted in the top map you can see on your screen there, at least for the Allegheny territory. There's also a 2018 study for walkable Gemtown that was completed by Go Bike Buffalo that kind of helped identify some of the pedestrian needs in that area and recommended some traffic calming measures, which that picture you can see on the lower half of the screen is clipped out of that study to try and highlight the style of improvement we're talking about there, just really trying to define a safe space for all users. Some of the other things we heard about are interest in providing links between other modes, whether it's a rails to trails path along the Allegheny River, improved snowmobile trails. We talked about a blue way, improved water access along the riverfront, just really trying to capitalize on the resources that we've got, making them sensitive and sustainable and accessible and all that good stuff. So this is kind of all lumped into this pedestrian trail needs category for now. And just to really quickly touch on the railroad mode, one of the long-term goals there at the Railway Museum considers an excursion train, eventually drawing in weekend traffic from the Buffalo region. In a nutshell, one more, okay. Last but not least, routine maintenance also has to be considered alongside the other capital projects we've talked about up front. They tend to be more reactive, but we definitely want to acknowledge those and plan for them because they make a huge and immediate impact on safety, whether it's keeping the roads clean from snow to repairing potholes, replacing signage, all that kind of maintenance stuff gets lumped in there, and it's definitely coming out of the same pot. So I'm going to pause before I get ahead of myself and see if anybody has any questions or comments up to here. Okay, well, everyone's thinking on that. Sort of our next steps from here, as we're still got a little bit of time left on the public survey. I'm going to throw that link up again here in just a second. But the next step from there is to really compile that input and digest it and look at if there are other needs that we haven't seen yet that we needed to pull in inside the others, and kind of how that all prioritizes by mode. And then one of the other steps we'll be doing is trying to identify some innovative funding mechanisms to make sure that we're responsive to those and able to keep moving forward. And all this kind of next steps that we haven't presented today will be added on to a final chapter 6 in the report itself. And I'm going to double back to that slide that had a link to the survey, as well as the GIS app, and open it up for questions, comments, deep philosophical insights. Okay. Well, we've come to the end of the prepared portion of the presentation, but we'll definitely continue to hang around if you think of stuff. In the meantime, Sharon, Ben, closing. You guys are still muted. It's hard to tell if your mouths are moving with the masks.
If you check the chat, we put the link to the LRTP.
There you go.
Should we put that in there?
That's in there, that's on there.
Oh, okay.
And the link to the survey is at the top of the comments.
I'll copy that over as well. Or actually, I think that was in the chat panel earlier. There's a link to the survey.
Yep, it's the first thing in the chat panel.
And while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and copy in our link to the 6 o'clock meeting as well, just in case anybody wants to
Perfect.
hang around for that one as well. Like I said, we'll be around and we're ready to chat if you want to, but that's the end of the song and dance for now.
Right. And if anybody has any questions, needs to reach us directly, any of us, I can be reached at benjamin.anderson@sni.org. Sharon can be reached at sharon.ray@sni.org. And Jerry, it's Jerry J. Jimerson?
No, I'll type everybody's email in.
All right.
Jody, I think you can unmute now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I looked at the survey. Actually, I started to fill it out last week until I realized that I really did not like the exercise of dividing $100 with all of those projects folded together. And the reason I didn't like that. And I would, actually, I didn't complete the survey because of it. There was no indication of which projects would be actually where New York State would be accountable. The DOT should be held accountable for those projects. And I'm afraid that if you publish any sort of a list that would say that Woodchuck Road was the last priority, that's going to provide justification for the state never to make any repairs or ever put that on a list to do any work on it. And hi, Ron, I see you're on.
No, that's a high priority project is Woodchuck.
Well, I'm saying that I don't think the list that New York State DOT should be responsible for should be in the same list as projects that should be funded out of TTP.
Oh,
Because
understandable.
Those two lists should be separate lists.
Yes, yep, I agree.
And that I really wish you would redesign that survey right away. And not even let this continue any further. Because personally, I'm not going to fill it out the way it is. And yet I will comment that officially. Thank
Yeah,
you.
You can take written comments too. Or verbal comments, however,
Yeah,
yeah.
any way that you want to submit the comments, but I understand your comment.
Well, in
there.
fact, my comments right now are being recorded, right?
Yes, the whole meeting's being recorded.
And if the survey is not changed, I want to make sure that my comments are included in whatever's published.
Yeah, they will be.
Okay. Because it really is providing an out for somebody on anything that has a low ranking.
Yeah.
And I had not had a chance to actually see the document, and so now having that address, I'll have a look at it.
And also, I think one of the things that we found really beneficial, Jody, was the crowdsourcing. And it was kind of, I think a couple people had some confusion with that, or it did not get through the survey, and wanted to add more specifics. So that I think we're going to utilize as a pretty strong tool. Is that crowdsourcing map where we're actually able to identify specific locations and adding comments about any other project. So I think that it's a combination that I understand your comment there, and not wanting to give New York State any leeway on things that we really need to see get done. But that also that crowdsourcing map is going to allow us some more leverage on additional points being made and recommendations for projects and areas. So I think that'll help in that case.
At what point are you considering any new projects? And because the other thing that I would that's missing to me is there's no, maybe it's in the LRTP that I haven't had a link to until now, but to identify which projects are already programmed and that we expect to see in construction next year and the year after, because this plan right here, you're looking several years out, and yes, we said we planned for 20 years, but we totally expect that those are going to change in those out years, or they could anyway. But knowing what the current programs are and the funding sources really kind of have an impact on how you say what else you want to see done.
Yeah, so I think that's something important that we'll add as far as your comment is, is identifying what projects that are already in the pipeline that we're moving forward with. Most of the things that we looked at are what the survey is based off of, are the projects that are under consideration, what, really what we're trying to get out of that crowdsourcing map, and a lot of the input is projects that, that haven't been considered in the past, that, that there's a lot of support for going forward. And as you know, that public input being a kind of a strong data point for that. So most of the projects that we looked at that we have shown here are based off of data, but that the public input's going to be, I think, a really strong suit for us, especially considering that we are limited on actual data and crash statistics. So that's what we're hoping to do, is actually uncover what some other projects are and what future projects are. And this being not a stagnant plan, I think everybody knows that things change day to day, week to week. So we, do the best we can at looking 20 years out, but we highly anticipate this to be fluid, to be able to change as the nation evolves, as things change, as different funding sources become available. And there is a bill that is going forward right now that is looking at quite a bit of funds federally for infrastructure and transit and the like. So I think that we can expect to see some other funding sources that will help develop some of these other projects.
Were those other transit grants that were awarded, were those ever completed?
They are being worked on right now. We've
Yep.
got an engineer.
We've made a lot of progress on them. So and there's been some changes to them, and we're currently in conceptual phases for both territories, and a resolution going forward to this council to kind of adopt it. So
2 years later, we're in conceptual phase?
we're starting conceptual phase now.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Is there anywhere in the plan, and I apologize that I haven't had the link to this to see what the draft says, but is there anywhere in there that identifies the projects that have been completed in the last couple of years?
No.
Recently completed projects.
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
No,
As far as you're saying, looking back 10 years.
not even, just the last couple of years, really.
So the draft plan, the chapter that hasn't been added yet, I'll kind of look at those previous funding levels, but the planning horizon is always that forward focused look. At least with the federal requirements.
Okay, well, and I mean, part of why I ask is, I mean, one of the sections that you put up in one of the later slides focused on maintenance, and that's always been a concern. And everybody has been pushed to utilize construction funds for maintenance. But anytime that that's done, we're not getting any capital projects completed. So with that, I also would like to know, have you been like meeting regularly with New York State DOT to make sure that, we're getting everything we can out of them?
Yes.
Okay, and when, like, I guess just in the report, I noticed in this presentation, there were a lot of photos that really were out of place and some of them mislabeled. And I found it a little bit odd that the title page included a photo that obviously was nowhere around here.
That's
Yeah.
the Southern Tier Expressway, the picture that Seth Brown took.
The title page of this presentation?
Oh, no.
No,
We're talking about the LRTD, the
Oh, sorry.
presentation.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. That was just the preset template. I thought it was lovely and I forgot to ever go back and change it. I apologize for that one.
Okay,
Yep.
And I just want to make sure that when the plan comes out, it doesn't have something like that.
This is,
Yeah.
this is currently the cover that we have for the, oh, we on video? Yeah,
Oh, yeah, we're on video.
currently the cover that we have. So the photo of Southern Tier Expressway with our, with a logo. Obviously, probably a few changes to that still. And really important to know that this is a draft. One of the main, the substance really of this whole document is gonna come in chapter 6. And that's what we haven't completed yet. That's what we're kind of hoping to get back from, survey responses, from your comments here, of course, anything with that crowdsourcing map. So really the substance of this document is yet to come. And I think that'll be interesting how that pans out.
Okay, has there been any progress on development of a trails plan?
Actually, that's a good comment that we,
Yeah,
go ahead, Jerry.
yeah, I'll be happy to talk about that. So we received permission from council to develop a trails commission. So that announcement went out, I believe, last week, and that is going to be closed for community members, I believe, May 28th. Is it May 28th?
Yes.
Yes.
May 28th. So the clerk's office is currently accepting letters of intent for community members. And we have all along been working on the trails plan, and we hope to present to them a draft, and they can have community input and go public with that and just go along with the process.
In addition to the commission, we also have been making progress or moving forward with a trail development along West State Street. That it's planning, but utilizing some of the millings from this project to try to make a full loop connection. Jody, I think you're familiar with that project, but I'm not sure the other people on the line are. So that's one that we're looking to go forward with, and as well
Through the brownfield? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, through the railroad depot and along the abandoned rail line.
So is that shown in the LRTP draft?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, a couple of years ago, at least, we were talking about trying to look at Front Avenue as a possible one-way street with some pedestrian activity on one half of that street. And it is on the federal aid highway system. Did that idea get dropped, and why, if it did?
No, it hasn't been dropped.
Good, because I've been talking to a lot of people about it. And they like it, but even back at the time, if you guys remember, we knew that we couldn't talk about it and really get people excited about it until this main, all the, 417 was redone.
Yeah.
So that's on there, that's in there too?
I'm not quite sure.
That's not in here, but that's something like we said into chapter 6 is being, potential projects and recommendations for projects. So
Okay, because we had that even mapped on different things, I believe, as like potential projects.
I think it's on the trails map.
Okay. And then I noticed last week that the city council had passed some sort of something about the Main Street Bridge repairs. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah.
But I was wondering if there was ever any more discussions about trying to get a few enhancements in there to make that more attractive than that industrial bridge that's there, something that's inviting to downtown.
That's a good idea, but I think they only have enough money.
I think that it was scaled back on what what they were doing with.
That's always the first reply, but when everybody thinks about it, there's only 5% local funding on that.
Right,
And
but
if everybody is stretched.
Replacement, and as far as
We're not
work on the bridge, that there is consideration for cultural components, and aesthetics components is still something that we stressed on that. So that is still there. It's just that where the initial discussions of complete replacement of that bridge is, that's not in their funding currently. And that's it, but it is, and it's also in what we have right now as one of the potential bridge projects. So but as far as I think anything going forward, and that also being in here is culture playing a component in capital projects and infrastructure projects, so that so we want to keep that going forward, where any new development does pull in a cultural component and kind of signifies that you're on Seneca Nation territory, and a cultural component to it.
Well, I've always believed that there could be some simple modifications to that, even that current structure, to help make it more inviting and to look a whole lot less industrial. And, that it doesn't have to be highly expensive to do that, even if it's done with some of the lighting that is out there today, something to make it more attractive.
And lighting is one of the things that will be replaced on that Main Street bridge.
Well,
that is one of the things that's getting changed out.
We haven't gone real public yet, but we do have a fairly large group, ad hoc group in town, where we're working together to start implementing and working toward doing some things for Main Street and for economic development in town, and also to kind of follow up and do some of the things. Remember when we went to Bardstown? And one of the big things that I got out of that trip was how many festivals that Bardstown did. And if there's ever any way to revive Main Street, part of that is to get more festivals and reasons for people to come here. And in order to do that and to get people downtown and fill those shops, that means making that area more attractive for people to be on the street. That bridge, the way it sits, is not going to, it's just not going to do it. I mean, we've been, one of the ideas is for us to hold a Hellbender festival, with like a bike week. We think it has great potential.
Yeah, I recall it was several years ago, but there was the Oxbow River Fest, several events, and I would imagine what you're doing, you're involving John Sheehan with the Chamber of Commerce.
He's part of it, yeah.
Because I know that was one of the things, that one of the initiatives that they had before. That's they had the Ribbon Music Fest that they got going. I think that there is definitely that definitely helps promote tourism and development, when having a series of events. And I think we're definitely located in an area that would be that we can do that. Unfortunately, this last year put a huge dent on those types of things. But as we get to rebuilding and restructuring things, I think it's a really good time to start to consider that, as everybody's rebuilding and trying to
Put
get
a huge
back on the ground.
dent where? You didn't describe where.
What?
You said there was a huge dent. Where's the dent?
COVID.
Yeah, well, you said this last year put a huge dent into what?
And I would say into the economy and into taking a lot of
It didn't
money.
impact. It didn't impact federal highway funds, though.
Okay.
Okay, so to get back to the cultural enhancements around Main Street, we will definitely look at doing that. There are several learning lessons that we took from the Penzi Trail, and partnerships that we would like to develop to have some community buy-in and for them to take ownership and be excited about what's going to happen with our city once we start seeing growth and development.
Yes, and that's what I'm trying to actually help create, is some of that excitement and that growth and development and cooperation and all of that. So, you know, I really just want to make sure that, you know, we all, I mean, have you met with the city specifically about any of this? Let them know that you're doing this plan?
The LRTP plan?
Yeah,
Yeah, they were all invited to join and sent the links.
Everything that we've done, we've kind of reached out, had, you know, kept communication open with the city,
Yeah, and to
and the
schools,
county.
and the schools.
okay. I just know I don't think they're as up on things as you guys are, and they don't understand it quite as well. So sitting down with them and not just a simple invite might be worthwhile.
Okay.
Yep.
Matt, you're really silent.
Hey Jody, how are you?
Good. And you?
I'm very well. I was being a good listener and taking some notes down. Even
Do
though
you still have other people on the line?
it's being recorded, I wanted to jot a few things down as you were mentioning them to make sure that we take care of everything.
When's the deadline for your comments?
30-day.
30-day public comment
yeah.
today. From today, yes. So basically,
Okay,
end of May. Yep.
It would be the fall in line with the Trails Commission, so
Yeah.
May 28th.
So I've tried to, I tried to, every comment you had, Jody, I tried to put in the chat. So once we conclude the meeting, you know, that'll be available too and recorded.
okay. I haven't had my glasses on. I'll go look at them now.
Are there any other comments at this point? Barb, Carrie, Ron,
Carl,
Carl?
Gerald.
I'm good, just listening in.
Sharon, I just appreciate the opportunity to hear what the nation's planning for the future. Look forward to working with you as always.
Thank
Great.
you, Ron.
Thanks, Ron.
We were also able to include a section in there about climate resiliency. So please, you know, review that also. Where we included charging stations and some pullovers, different design methods that would be conducive to environmental standards moving forward. If anybody would like to provide their email, we can definitely send out all the links that are in the chat.
Okay. I think we're good. Is there any other comments here? Any other thing before we wrap up? Oh. Perfect. That like we said before, we do have another meeting coming up here in just a little over 10 minutes on the roundabout at Iroquois and Broad. So hopefully we'll get you guys back on for that one. If there's anything else from Rebecca or for Matt to add in, or if there's any comments, we'll do that now. Otherwise, we'll wrap this up.
I think we're good. Hope everybody's able to stick around for the 6 o'clock and take those, drop some pins in the GIS app or take the survey.
So take a bathroom break, get a snack, and join us at 6.
Got their emails.
Is it 4:20 yet?
Happy hour.
All the things I get to say now.
Yeah, well, so, maybe even within a few minutes, we can get the links out to you all.
Well, I'm going to end this meeting and we'll jump over to the new link here in a couple of minutes.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you, everybody.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Yeah.